My family wanted to euthanize my dog while I was at university to build a workshop for my brother in the backyard. However, their justification wasn't strong enough, and they now need dog training themselves. I am 24 years old. This happened last year during my final year of university, about a 4-hour drive from my hometown. My dog Pinot is a 9-year-old corgi mix with anxiety issues and a heart murmur. I've had her since I was 15. She is my dog, not the family's. I paid for her adoption, her food, her medication, everything. When I left for university, I couldn't bring her with me initially due to dormitory rules and later due to housing restrictions, so she stayed with my parents. They were fine with it at first. My mom loved having a companion while my dad was at work. My younger brother is 19 now. He was 18 then and mostly ignored her. In my 3rd year of university, the tone started to change. My mom began making passive-aggressive comments about how much work Pinot was saying that having a dog is a young person's thing and that I should find a way to take her soon. I understood. She's older now and needs medication twice a day, but it's not like they didn't know that when I left. I started making plans to take her after I graduated. I told everyone, just hold on a few more months. But my brother, well, he had other plans. That autumn, he got really into woodworking. He built some shelves, a coffee table, and started talking about building a real workshop in the backyard, which is fine, great, whatever. Until I found out that this workshop meant demolishing the shed and converting the entire backyard, including the space where Pinot's doghouse stood. When I complained, they told me not to worry, that they would find a solution. 3 months later, I received a text message from my mom in the middle of finals week. It read, "We need to talk about Pinot. She's not doing well and maybe it's time." Panic attack. I called immediately. She told me Pinot was acting strange, limping a bit and not eating properly. I asked if they had taken her to the vet. They hadn't. I told them to take her immediately and I would pay. Instead, they said, "We've been talking and honestly maybe it's time to let her go. She's old and it's hard on us too." I told them absolutely not, that they were not going to euthanize my dog without my consent. My mom tried to guilt trip me saying, "You don't even live here, don't you see how bad she is?" I told them to take her to the vet that same day or I would drive all the way there and take her myself. They finally agreed to take her to the vet and I would pick her up that weekend. 2 days later, I received a voicemail from my dad. His voice was calm, casual. "Hey, just letting you know we started building the workshop. We had to move some things from the yard and your dog is fine." I didn't think much of it until I saw a Facebook post from my brother with the caption, "Saying goodbye to the yard." When I saw it, I called but no one answered. I drove 4 hours home that very night without warning. I arrived at 2 a.m., walked into the backyard and everything was gone. The yard was destroyed. Her doghouse was no longer there, nor were her dishes. Pinot was in a plastic crate in the garage without a blanket, without food, without water, limping and trembling. I picked her up and she whimpered like I'd never heard before. I took her to the emergency vet that same night. $500 later, they told me she had a dislocated leg, probably from a pull or a fall. She had bruises on her ribs and was dehydrated. They asked if I wanted to file a report. I said yes. That's when the real hell began. My parents went crazy. My dad said I overreacted by taking her to the hospital. My mom told me I was making them look like abusers. My brother said I was stupid and that his workshop was more important than a stupid dog. They tried to make me feel guilty. Then they tried to charge me for a scratch on the garage door that I made while loading Pinot into the car. A week later, I served them with a civil lawsuit for animal neglect. My lawyer said we had a solid case, especially with the veterinary report and the text messages. We went to mediation 3 months later. I didn't even want money. I just wanted legal acknowledgement of what they did. My lawyer pushed for a small settlement, just enough to cover the vet expenses and legal fees. They agreed, but only if I signed a non-disclosure agreement. I refused, so we went to trial. It lasted months. During the discovery phase, we found messages where my mom literally said, "Once we get rid of the dog, we can start construction." And my brother said, "I'm not going to be carrying her crate every day. Let her stay in the garage." These were messages they never thought I would see. The judge didn't grant everything I asked for. There were no criminal charges, obviously, but I did win a small compensation. They appealed, lost again, and now they want to reconcile. Last week, I received a card in the mail. My mom had written it. It said, "We miss you, and we miss Pinot. We're sorry, and we want to bring the family back together like before. We're ready to put all this behind us." I threw it away. The thing is, I'm not angry anymore, but I'm also not going to forget that they tried to kill my dog and they were succeeding. Pinot recovered. She's 10 now. She still limps a bit when it's cold, but she sleeps curled up at my feet every night and wags her tail when she sees me come through the door. I had to make quite a few changes here, like moving into a place earlier than planned, using all my savings to pay the difference that my job didn't cover while I finished my studies. My brother built his workshop, so no, I'm not going to put it behind me. I'm not going home for Thanksgiving, which is what they've asked for. Update 1. The gist of this update could be that they showed up at my job with a framed photo of Pinat and me and a gift so we could close this cycle of pain. After hurting someone I love, they want us to go back to how things were, to act as if nothing happened here and for everything to return to normal. I was at work coming back from my lunch break when the receptionist notified me, "Hey, there's a couple here who say they're your parents." I told her to tell them I wasn't available, that I was in a meeting, whatever. She hesitated for a moment and said, "They asked me to give you something." When I got to the front, there it was. One of those fancy gift bags with fake tissue paper and a little bow on top sitting on the counter like a bomb. That's why I joked about it with her, and she jokingly called the bomb squad. Next to it, a framed photo. It was Pinat and me when I was 16. I recognized it immediately because it used to hang in the hallway at home. I was holding her in a towel after her bath with a silly smile. She looked like a wet loaf of bread with ears. The photo had a folded note taped to it. On the outside, it just said, "Please read this." I didn't open it. I just grabbed the bag, thanked the receptionist, and went straight back to my desk. I sat there for about 10 minutes staring at it as if it would explode if I touched it wrong or cut the wrong ribbon. Inside the bag, a pack of her favorite treats, the brand I hadn't been able to find since we moved. A new collar with her name embroidered, though she still uses the one I bought her when she turned 5. A mug that said, "Mommy loves her doggy," and a long, handwritten letter folded in thirds. It was my mother's handwriting, but it was clearly a group effort. Lots of we, lots of as a family, lots of we've changed so much. They said they deeply regretted how things had turned out, that they never meant to hurt anyone, and that they acted out of stress and confusion. They said nobody in this world loves Peanut more than us. Yes, I think that was very clear when they thought about euthanizing her because they said she was sick. They ended the letter with, "We know we made mistakes, but we're ready to heal if you are. Let's start over for Peanut, if for nothing else. You want to fix things? Start by telling the truth. Don't send me treats in a cheesy mug." But a part of me is starting to think this isn't over, that this was just the first step of another slow campaign of manipulation. And I swear if they show up at my house this time, I'm calling the police. Update 2. They sent a certified letter demanding shared custody of my dog because according to them, she was a family pet. Folks, I honestly thought I had seen the worst of their madness. After they showed up at my job with that bag of junk and a framed photo to appeal to my emotional side, I turned completely stone cold. I didn't even take that mug home. I donated it to charity the next day, and that was that. Someone could at least make better use of it than I could. I didn't even talk to them. I thought silence would make it clear that I had no intention of seeing them talking or reconciling anything, but I underestimated how far they were willing to go to get back into my life. I came home from work a few days ago and found a certified envelope. Inside was a letter with supposedly official letterhead. It wasn't legal, just a shoddy word design that said family correspondence and had our last name. It was double-spaced and signed in blue ink. It said they were requesting shared custody of Pinat. I swear to God I read it 5 times to make sure I wasn't hallucinating, or it wasn't some deceptive advertisement or something. They used phrases like, "We believe it is in Pinat's best emotional welfare to maintain a relationship with the family she spent so much time with." Right, because what she needs most is to be traumatized again. Given that she has spent most of her life in our home, we have a right to reasonable visitation. Our home remains her original home, and denying her access constitutes emotional harm. We are willing to agree to a rotating visitation schedule bi-weekly or monthly, and we will provide transportation. And the gem that made me laugh out loud, we don't want to take her from you, we just want her in our lives because she has also been an emotional support for us. I wonder how much loving emotional support she provided. It must have been a lot because from the garage locked up and in poor condition, that supposed support was reaching the main house. I don't know who helped them draft this. Probably my brother or some internet tool, but it was written as if it were a child custody battle, albeit with some issues. They even added a line at the end saying they were exploring serious legal options if I didn't respond. Let me be very clear in case there are any doubts. Pinat is mine. I rescued her, I fed her, I paid her vet bills, I trained her, I walked her, I stayed awake when she had surgery, I cleaned her eyes with warm cloths when she had infections. I called my lawyer. Yes, the same one who helped me with the lawsuit. I told him what was happening. I sent him a copy of the letter. He told me it's legally, emotionally, and ethically ridiculous, but to keep everything anyway in case they try to escalate the situation. It was another manipulation tactic disguised as civility. The kind of thing narcissists do when direct aggression stops working. They switch to legal bureaucracy paperwork. I'm not going to answer the letter. I'm not going to negotiate with people who used my emotional support dog as leverage to build a damn workshop for a brother who can't even hold down a job. If he wanted to build a workshop at his house, he should have gotten his own house. I don't even see the point of that workshop because I see it as just another one of my brother's interests that will disappear in a few months. But it's not my money, so it's not my concern. My concern is Penat and her safety. Let them file whatever they want. We'll see each other in court again with photos, vet records, documentation of abuse, everything. Update 3. My brother traveled to the dog park and tried to take Penat. She bit him and my brother shrieked, and now they're threatening to sue me for having a dangerous animal. To put it in context, my brother is the reason all of this started. He is the golden child and a waste of a human being. This last phrase might be motivated by what he tried to do, but also because I truly think it for many reasons besides those already told. He's the man-child around whom they built their lives, for whom they were literally willing to sacrifice my dog just so he could have a quiet and isolated workspace in the backyard. The one who said Penat had lived long enough and that euthanizing her wasn't a big deal, and that I was being dramatic for not wanting to put her to sleep. And what if we put him to sleep instead? No need to be dramatic, right? He's the same one who told me to my face that if she disappeared, I would get over it faster than I thought. So you can imagine how this went. This happened 3 days ago Sunday morning. I always take Penat to a local park around 10 a.m. It's our routine. A short car ride first on a leash, then to the small dog area where she can sniff the grass and ignore other dogs like the old lady she's becoming. She's a calm dog who doesn't bother anyone unless you try something like what my brother did. We had just arrived. I was standing near the bench looking at my phone while half watching Penat sniffing some bushes. When I heard someone say my name, I turned around, and there he was, the problem of my life. He was standing just inside the entrance to the fenced area hood, up sunglasses on a leash coiled in one hand and a smirk. He was planning to steal my dog, but he looked like he was going to rob a bank and wouldn't be very successful. I immediately grabbed Penat's leash and called her. She came, but she recognized him and was not happy. I could feel the tension in her body before she reached me. I said, "What are you doing here?" He said, "Mom and Dad just want to talk. They say you've been avoiding them. I thought coming to see you in person talking brother to sister would help you be less angry with your family because in the end, we're your family even if you don't see it that way." I told him to leave, that I didn't want any contact with any of them, and that if he was acting on their behalf, he would face the consequences of the problems they were causing me. He shrugged and said, "I'm not here on their behalf, I'm here for her." And he pointed at Penat. I said, "You're joking and you should be if you know what's good for you." He said, "She's not just your dog, you know. We all raised her. You're making this harder than it needs to be. Let me take her for a bit, it will calm everyone down." I started backing away. I told him again to leave. I told him I was going to call the police. And then he lunged. He took 2 quick steps forward and tried to snatch the leash quickly as if he could grab her and run. But he didn't succeed because Penat reacted first. She jumped quite fast and strong for her age. A single bark followed by a bite directly on his hand. He screamed as if a shark had bitten him, but it was a 9-year-old corgi. He stumbled backward, clutching his wrist and yelling, "What the hell?" I'm sure he thought he was the first victim of a shark bite in a park hundreds of miles from the sea. I pulled her behind me, secured the leash to my belt, and immediately pulled out my phone. By the time I was dialing, he was already almost at his car screaming insults at me and saying that I trained her to be aggressive and that I was crazy. I called the police anyway and filed a report. I told them my whole story as well as the harassment and my lawsuit against them. And I added that he had now tried to steal my dog, and that I had witnesses who were there at the park with their dogs and saw everything. Typically, no dog owner likes to know that pet thieves exist. And today I received a letter from a lawyer. Yes, now they're threatening to sue me for having a dangerous animal. They are alleging that Penat attacked without provocation and that my refusal to socialize her with her original family caused behavioral instability. They say my brother needed 6 stitches in his hand, which I doubt because Penat's mouth isn't that big, but if I see him again, he'd be more stitches than person. But even if it were true, he lunged at her as if she were a stuffed animal in a claw machine. And they also attached, this is no joke, a printed screenshot of an old Facebook post of mine in which I joked that Penat was a nippy beast when she got nervous. They highlighted the word nippy and circled it as if it were evidence of intent. My lawyer called it what it is, pure theater and empty threats. I've seen this kind of thing before, people with no real case trying to pressure with fear tactics to force a settlement. But just in case, we are documenting everything. I also went back to the park the next day to apologize to the regulars who saw the altercation. A couple of them told me they had already noticed the guy lurking near the parking lot before. One even said she thought she had seen him taking photos of my car last week but wasn't sure. So now I have filed a restraining order against all three of them, arguing harassment not just against my brother, but against my parents, because I'm not going to wait for them to cross another line. And do you want to know the most ironic thing? After all this, the ambush at the park, the threat of a lawsuit, the documented bite report they're still posting on social media to gain sympathy with messages that make no sense, even to a burnt-out mind like theirs. My mom posted about how painful it is when a family member cuts off love from the rest, and that pets deserve their entire pack, not just one member of their family. A pack. More like a pack of lions, which is where I'd throw them if they try any more funny business like this. Poor lions, they'd surely get indigestion from eating something in such bad shape as them. Update 4. Well, they lost. The case was dismissed in less than 10 minutes. The elevator ride and formal greetings took longer than the case itself. Their lawyer showed up with a weak case, a blurry photo of my brother's hand, which looks fine, never mind that it's attached to a brainless creature. But that's not my fault. The ancient Facebook screenshot where I called Pinot nippy, and the argument that I had a pattern of training my dog to bite people I didn't like. There was no video, no credible witnesses, no real proof that Pinot was anything more than an old scared dog defending herself. My lawyer explained everything clearly. We presented the vet report, the harassment log, the previous legal files, and video testimony from 2 people at the dog park who witnessed everything. The judge asked my brother if he was really filing a lawsuit because he was bitten by that tiny furball, and if he wasn't ashamed. He said that the other time 2 brothers came in, one threw boiling water in the other's face, which was serious, and he was complaining about some small scratches on his hand. My brother stormed out of the room before the judge finished speaking because he felt he was being disrespected. The judge didn't punish him for contempt, saying he already had enough problems in his life without adding more. My mom sat in the back, whispering to herself and drying her eyes with a tissue she had probably wetted before entering. That's something she would do. My dad didn't even show up. Perhaps he was the only one who thought this whole lawsuit was nothing but a circus. 3 days later, there was a knock on my door. It was animal control. They said they had received an anonymous complaint about a dangerous dog that matched Pinot's description, which supposedly had bitten several people and was being kept in unsafe conditions. Their version of calling Child Protective Services, but for my dog. Pinot trotted over, wagging her tail in her pink sweater, dragging her favorite crinkly stuffed raccoon, which is what she does with visitors. The officers looked around, saw the feeding station, the 3 beds she rotates during the day, and the stool I bought her so she can get on the couch without hurting her joints. One of them knelt down to pet her. She licked his hand and sat down. He smiled and said, "I'm terrified of this wild animal. Now I can see the danger it poses to society." They left shortly after that and said they had seen everything they needed to see. They didn't tell me who had made the complaint, but I knew exactly who it had been. Sometimes I envy Pinot a little. She doesn't understand anything that's happening in her doggy world. She doesn't know what complaints are or entitled siblings or parents with favoritism. She only knows she needs food, water, playtime, and her favorite objects, nothing more. She also knows what a threat is and when she needs to bite. She doesn't call the police or file lawsuits. She bites your hand if you try to take her by surprise. It's a much simpler life. Update 5. Pinot has a little boyfriend from her park, walks a new dog that goes in the afternoons, and coincides with our walks at that time. They run back and forth together, and she brings him her ball to play. I feel a bit left out when he's there because for Pinot, there's no one else in that park. I used to think nothing could separate us, not even my parents. But then a dog shows up and Pinot acts like she doesn't know me. I'm not jealous. You're jealous. What I'm not jealous of is my parents and their pet. They didn't know. My parents always had a pet and they never told me. Turns out it's my brother and he's been a bad dog, but he's certainly a pet that bites the hand that feeds him. Because even though my brother doesn't have a designated eating area in the house like cats and dogs, he can eat everywhere. And my parents fed him. And I don't mean they gave him money. I mean they literally fed him. All that was missing was for them to make the airplane gesture. My mother still prepares his lunch and dinner, plus whatever snacks he fancies when he's hungry. If they had adopted a dog from the shelter, it would have been easier to maintain and more grateful. My brother, good old him, injured himself in his workshop with one of his tools. He alleges it was my parents' fault for not hiring a good contractor and that led to his injury. Well, he has sued them, thus biting the hand that feeds him. And my parents put him to sleep. Let me explain that before you think I mean they sent him to doggy heaven. They kicked him out of the house, which for my brother is like taking his life. The lawsuit was quickly dismissed, but even though my brother banged on the house door with his paw, my parents didn't let him in anymore. Now that dog sleeps outside. He's a street dog. This has been a bit of the family drama of the last few months, a doggy drama.